Hey there, bookworms! So for today's vlog, I've noticed that I've been getting a lot of comments on my vlogs about asking me how to become a librarian, what you need to do to become a librarian in Australia. And of course, I can only speak from my own experience on that. I don't know, obviously, everything about the industry. I'm quite new to it myself, but today I'm going to tell you what I did, what I found out you needed to do to be a librarian, and hopefully put some of those questions to bed. If you're watching this and you're not in Australia, some of this information might be relevant, but it's always good to consult your country or your region's association for information professionals, because there might be some differences in the way that they go about training their information professionals and what sort of accreditation you need to become a librarian or an archivist or a library technician. So I'm only going to speak from my experience, my very limited experience, and from what I know is the case here in Australia, but hopefully that will answer some of your questions and help you to guide your career path if you're looking to work in libraries or to become a librarian or an archivist. And while I'm doing that, while I'm answering those questions and chatting, I'm going to rearrange this bookshelf. This is my bookshelf, it's in my bedroom, and at the moment it's arranged by genre. I actually don't like it. It's easier to find books, but it just doesn't look good. It just kind of looks messy. It's not aesthetic. Even though the genres are together, it still looks disorganized, and I don't love it. So how to rearrange them by color or... Anyway, I'm going to pull the books off and dust while I'm chatting and then hopefully think of a way to rearrange it. So make yourself comfortable, grab something warm to drink, and let's talk books today. Okay, so the first thing that I should probably say is that if you want to work in a library, you don't have to be a librarian. Not all people who work in libraries are librarians or library technicians. When I've worked in public libraries, I have worked in jobs that are customer service jobs. So I haven't been a qualified librarian or library technician. I got the job as like an entry-level customer service officer. So there are different roles in different libraries, and not all of them are for qualified librarians or technicians. So if you aren't qualified, you can still get a job in a library. That is possible. However, if you want to work as a librarian in a school library, an academic library, or like a state library or national library, or in an archive, you probably will need to be qualified. And in saying that, if you're going for a job where you're going to interview and you're against other applicants who are qualified are probably going to be given preference. So it is definitely valuable to get your qualifications and to get trained to get a job in a library. My first library job, I was already a teacher. I have a teaching degree. I worked as a teacher in primary schools, and then I worked in high school special ed. So I already was a teacher with a teaching degree. I have a Bachelor of Teaching, and I was already an experienced teacher. When I had my first child, the big one, I had decided that teaching and juggling children was probably not going to be for me, because I found the job it's not the hours per se, but it's the commitment. It really is. Teaching happens way beyond the 9 to 3:30 school day, and I just didn't feel like I was going to mentally be able to put in the energy to be a good teacher and to also be a present good parent to my children at the same time, especially when they were young. So I decided to step back from teaching, especially in the special ed space, because that's really involved as well, and there's a lot to that. So I had a few casual jobs in customer service, and I saw a job for a customer service officer advertised at our local public library, and these jobs are very sought after. And I think when I applied for that job, And I didn't live in a big town. I lived a town, like a large sort of regional central town, but over 200 people applied for that job. So, and they were only employing, I think, 5 or 6 of us. So it was very competitive. I can tell you the things that would have helped my application now, looking back. It would have been my teaching experience and my teaching degree. That definitely would have helped. Also, customer service experience really helped, and the fact that I'm good at that, and I like helping people, and I like helping people to find what they need. The other thing that definitely helped, and this is a very isolated circumstance, but the particular library that I was applying to work at had a mobile library truck. And I said in the interview, I have a secret desire to drive the truck, like the bookmobile. And they stopped and all looked at me and went, "Really?" And I was like, yeah, I would love to drive that truck. And that's what I got the job doing. I got the job as a casual mobile library operator. They paid for me to get my truck license. And they said to me later, "We have never had anyone say that before in interview." So I think that made me stand out from the other applicants, is the fact that not many truck drivers love literacy and books, and not many librarians want to drive trucks, you know? So I kind of set myself apart in the interview by saying that I wanted to do this thing that not many people were interested in doing. And that eventually was what I did. They paid for me to get my truck license, and I drove the mobile library 2 days a week for 2 years. And I loved that job so much, and it was such a valuable experience to drive the mobile library. I really got to build really close relationships with the library patrons that came to the mobile library, because they're a very small, very select community, and you see the same people every week at the same stops, and you become part of their lives. Like, they actually look for you and they worry about you when you don't come, and you know, you're part of their life and part of their routine and their community. And I loved that job so much. I could have done it for the rest of my life. I really enjoyed it. But unfortunately, my husband, well, not unfortunately, it ended up working out really well. It was a good thing in the long run, but he was having trouble furthering his career in our small regional town. He couldn't kind of get a foothold into his career. So we ended up having to move, and he got a promotion down here in Melbourne, and we moved to Melbourne. I really would have done that mobile library job forever. Honestly, it was the best job and I loved every minute of it. So we moved to Melbourne, and I'd had little one by then. So I had 2 children. We moved to Melbourne when my little one was 3 weeks old. And I didn't know anyone in the state. I'd never been to Melbourne before. And I was so pregnant when my husband got the job that I couldn't come here to look for a house. So I had to get a friend's mum who I hadn't met to go and look at a property for us. And she was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's fine." And we moved into a house sight unseen. We got there at 3 a.m. with a 3-year-old and a 3-week-old, and it was insane. Do not recommend, highly do not recommend moving interstate with a fresh baby away from your family and support. I don't know why. Bookworms, I don't know why we did it. I don't know why it seemed like a good idea at the time, but we did it. And we sold our house and we moved down to Melbourne. So a few years after that, my husband had been working at his job and was really enjoying it, and we loved Melbourne, and we decided we were going to stay long term. And when little one was about to go to school, I saw a job online in public library system locally, and I didn't know anyone in the workplace or anything like that, but it was an entry-level customer service role, and I decided I loved it so much in my previous home that I would go for it again and just see what happened. I wasn't quite ready to go back to work yet because little one hadn't started kinder or prep yet, but I decided to go for it. And again, it was a very, very competitive process. It's a very, very large library system, the one I was working in. It's very competitive. And I think, again, what worked for me in that application process was the fact that I'd done it before. And again, my teaching experience, I had years of customer service experience. I'd been a vet surgery receptionist. I worked at Coles at a supermarket. I'd worked at pharmacies. I had worked as a trail boss at a horse riding farm. So I had tons of public service, like customer service experience. And I think that really worked for me. One thing I can say is that when you're interviewing for a library job, they don't care if you love books. They really don't. They don't care, in my experience, if you love reading. I mean, that helps, but what they really want to know is, do you like to help people? And are you able to provide friendly, efficient customer service to people, no matter who they are, no matter what they're looking for, no matter what barriers they may be coming up against? Can you provide service to the community or to their clients? That's what I found was the most important thing. So if you're going to take anything away from this vlog, I highly recommend getting customer service experience. And if you're in an interview for a library position, to emphasize the fact that you love to help people, you're good at helping people, and that you have customer service experience. So I went for that job. They were advertising at the time for about 12 positions. They were looking to hire quite a few people, and I was lucky enough to get to interview through that process as well, and I got the role there. So that's how I got into public libraries. As far as my current job, so working in public libraries really confirmed for me that this is what I wanted to do. I really wanted to move my career forward from being a customer service officer to actually doing more librarian work. So working with collections, working with cataloguing, and doing that sort of back-end library work as well. So I did pursue doing the course. In Australia, I don't know if this is the case for other countries. From what I've found out speaking to people, it is often the case in other countries, but again, check with your local association for information professionals and your national association. But here in Australia, if you want to be a library technician, or if you want to be a teacher librarian in school libraries, or a librarian, you do need to have a degree. In Australia, you can get a library technician accreditation or a graduate certificate through TAFE or a higher institutions of education here in Australia. You can also get them through universities as well. If you want to be a librarian, a fully qualified librarian, or an archivist, you do need a master's degree. So that's what I'm doing currently. I'm doing a Master's of Information Science. You can also do a Master's of Library and Information Science. They're both pretty much the same thing. So it's an MIS or an MLIS, and they're the same, basically the same qualification, but it gives you a full librarian qualification or an archivist qualification as well. So archives, you're working with records and recordings and objects and things, and if you're a librarian, you're working with records and books. So that's the difference between the two roughly. They do overlap quite a lot too in my experience. So that's what I'm currently doing, and I'm not finished. I'm about halfway through my Masters of Information Science, but I was able to get a librarian role. And the way that happened was I have worked in public libraries now for 8 years as a customer service officer. So I already had a degree. I'm just tacking the master's year onto the end of that. When I applied for the job that I have now as an academic librarian, the people that I was doing my work placement with at Trinity College, the University of Melbourne, the librarians there were like, look, it does say on the application they're looking for a librarian or equivalent experience. So it's worth you applying because you have a degree, you're halfway through your master's, so you're invested in getting that qualification, and you have 8 years experience in public libraries. So you're already invested in the industry, you're invested in the career, you have experience, you just haven't got the piece of paper yet, and you have a bit left of your learning to go, your training to go. So they were like, it's worth applying for it, even though you're not fully qualified, because of that description that they're looking for. And so when I applied for the role, I was very honest and upfront about the fact that I haven't received the qualification yet, but I am more than halfway through. My grades are excellent, getting excellent results. I'm committed to this. I know what I'm getting into because I've got experience in the industry already, and I've already completed a degree. So I know what it takes to complete a tertiary degree. And I was successful. And so I actually already am a librarian in title and in employment. I just don't have the official qualification, the letters after my name yet, but that will come in the next year or two. That's how I did it. I'm now 43 this year. So I didn't do it straight out of school. I had quite a few jobs and career false starts before I decided that this is what I wanted to do. If you're fresh out of high school and you really don't know what you do, neither did I. Librarianship was not the first career that I landed on straight out of school. I said I was a teacher for a while and enjoyed that, but thought there was something more that I could do with it than just classroom teaching as well. So yeah, if you're fresh out of high school and you haven't decided what you want to do, don't worry. Not many people do know what they want to do fresh out of high school. You have time. What I can say, my advice if you're looking to get into libraries as a career, is to definitely investigate your national and local accreditation bodies. So for us in Australia, it's ALIA. That stands for the Australian Libraries and Information Association. Investigate what your tertiary institutions offer in terms of courses. If you want to be a library technician, that's a different qualification process. Have a look at the sort of career that you're looking for, that you're looking at, and what qualification that requires. Also, have a think about what sort of organisation you want to work in, because if you see yourself working in a customer service role, front-facing, public-facing role in a public library, you may not need a qualification. You may already have everything you need, and you may not need to spend that money and time getting further qualified. You may actually already have exactly what you need. It really depends where you want to work and where you want to end up. If you wanted to be a teacher librarian, you will definitely need to be qualified, and you will definitely need to have teaching and childcare experience as well as librarianship. If you want to be an academic librarian or a librarian at a law library or a state or national library, you will need a qualification, especially when they're interviewing for positions. Anyone who has those qualifications will be given preference. So you'll definitely need one of those qualifications for that, in my experience. I do have a lot of people asking me how, if they're from another country, how to come to Australia and get a job as a librarian or in a library. And the short answer to that is I really don't know. I haven't been through that process myself, so I couldn't tell you with any authority how to do that. The best advice I can give is to go to the Immigration Australia website. Check that out there. I haven't actually immigrated to another country before, so I don't have any experience to talk on that. Again, getting qualified is definitely, and getting experience in your own country first will definitely help you. Oh my gosh, I've nearly pulled everything off these bookshelves. Oh, there's so much here. So I hope that's been helpful, bookworms. As I said, I'm definitely not an expert on anything. That's just what I can tell you from my experience and what I have done. It definitely helps to go to your local libraries as well and talk to the people who work there. Ask them if they have any positions coming up for casual customer service roles, because experience does help. I mean, I can definitely say in my circumstance, as someone who's not qualified, it always got me roles. Having experience always pushed me across the line and into roles, especially customer service experience. Definitely worth going to the places that you want to work and asking questions. Definitely doesn't hurt to have a look around at your nearby education organisations and see what they offer in terms of courses, whether you want to study in person or whether you want to study online, whether you can study full-time or whether you'll need to study part-time around families and work and children and that kind of thing. So definitely worth investigating what's available to you, and then thinking about what sort of role you see yourself working in and what sort of institution, because all of that information will guide you towards what you need to do to move towards that career. That's the best advice I can give, bookworms. All right, I'm going to stop gas bagging and I'm going to dust these shelves, start arranging all this stuff back onto the shelves. Let's hope it looks good at the end. What do you think, bookworms? I think it looks better. It looks more interesting and more full. There's no order to it except the size of the book, but I think that's kind of cool to go fossicking through and find, like, to shop your shelves when you're looking for a book to read. I might get sick of it and change it later anyway, but I don't know, change is as good as a holiday, so we'll see how this goes. I like the way it looks anyway. It looks really full and interesting. So comment down below how you organise your books, or if you like this, or if this is just too chaotic for you and you couldn't do it. Comment down below and let me know what you think. Right, so I'm going to go and grab some lunch and then probably go and read. So I hope you've got that sort of afternoon planned for you too. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and tell all your bookworm friends to come over here and join us and join our bookworm community. Okay, I'm going to head off now and edit this and get it ready for you to come out, and I hope you're having a beautiful day. Take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and I'll catch you in the next vlog.